The ground shook as something massive tore through the atmosphere above the Mojave Desert. Dr. Allison Grant looked up from her research station at the Palomar Observatory, her eyes widening as a fireball streaked across the pre-dawn sky. The object was too controlled to be a meteor, too large to be a satellite, and moving far too slowly to be anything made on Earth. "Are you seeing this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her research assistant nodded, already dialing the emergency contact number they had been given for exactly this kind of event, evidence of something that shouldn't exist. Within 3 hours, the desert was swarming with military personnel. Helicopters circled overhead while Humvees created a perimeter around what was now clearly an enormous spacecraft. It had skidded across 2 miles of desert, creating a trench that would be visible from space. Captain Frank Rodriguez stepped out of a Black Hawk helicopter, squinting against the sun and the dust kicked up by the rotors. His orders had been simple but impossible. Secure the alien vessel and prepare for potential first contact. "Dr. Grant?" he called as he spotted the physicist being escorted through the checkpoint. She nodded, extending her hand. "Captain Rodriguez, I guess we're the welcome committee." "Along with 3 armored divisions and enough firepower to start World War III, he replied with a grim smile. "But let's hope it doesn't come to that." They approached the vessel together. It was enormous, nearly half a mile long, with a strange, silvery hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. There were no visible windows, just smooth, curved surfaces interrupted by what might have been propulsion systems at the rear. For 6 days the ship remained silent. Scientists scanned it, soldiers guarded it, and the world held its breath. Then, without warning, a seam appeared in the hull, widening into a doorway. A ramp extended to the ground. The creatures that emerged looked almost like tall, thin humans, except for their bluish skin and eyes, with horizontal, diamond-shaped pupils. They wore what appeared to be uniforms made of a material that shimmered, like oil on water. "I am Ambassador Czech of the Varaxian Empire," the first alien announced in perfect English, the words slightly delayed after his mouth moved, suggesting some kind of translation technology. "We have come to retrieve our vessel." The diplomatic talks that followed were held in a hastily constructed facility near the crash site. Dr. Grant and Captain Rodriguez sat across from Ambassador Czech and his aides, with government officials from 12 nations flanking them. "The vessel you see is a cargo hauler called the Discarded Star," Czech explained with what seemed like boredom. "It experienced a navigation failure during a routine transit through your solar system." "What kind of cargo does it transport, Doctor?" Grant asked. Czech made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "It transported raw materials from mining operations, but it is an obsolete model. Our empire has far superior vessels now." Over the next 2 days, the Varaxians inspected their ship, accompanied by a team of human scientists and soldiers. Captain Rodriguez noticed how the aliens barely bothered to explain anything, treating the humans like children who wouldn't understand anyway. On the 3rd day, Ambassador Czech called for a meeting. "We have completed our assessment," he announced. "The vessel is not worth retrieving. The propulsion system is damaged beyond simple repair and the cost of salvage exceeds its value. We will abandon it here." The room fell silent with shock. "You're just leaving it here?" asked Lisa Martinez, an intelligence analyst who had been quietly observing the negotiations. "Yes," Czech replied. "Consider it a gift to your primitive civilization. Perhaps you can melt it down for its materials." He seemed amused by the thought. Dr. Grant leaned forward. "Would you be willing to provide some basic technical information to help us understand the technologies involved, for safety reasons?" The ambassador appeared to consider this. "Very well. We will provide basic documentation and translators. Nothing critical or classified, of course. The vessel is worthless scrap to us, but I suppose your species might find it too educational." The Varaxians departed the next day, leaving behind data tablets with simplified technical information. As their sleek shuttle broke atmosphere, Dr. Grant stood with Captain Rodriguez watching the feed from a satellite. "They think we're stupid," she said quietly. Did you notice how they kept talking down to us? Rodriguez nodded. Like we were children playing with rocks while they had smartphones. Well, Dr. Grant said, her eyes gleaming with determination. Let's see what these children can do with their new toy. Within weeks, the world's governments formed the International Starship Research Initiative, ISRI. The best scientists from around the globe were recruited, with Dr. Grant appointed as lead researcher. Captain Rodriguez was named military liaison, tasked with assessing any potential defense applications. 6 months into the project, Dr. Grant called Rodriguez to her lab in the converted cargo hold of the alien ship. Her face was flushed with excitement. Their worthless scrap is still centuries beyond our most advanced technology, she explained, pulling up diagrams on her tablet. Their propulsion system doesn't just bend space, it creates microscopic wormholes. And their computer systems? They're quantum-based with processing power that makes our supercomputers look like abacuses. Can we make any of it work? Rodriguez asked, studying the glowing diagrams. Eventually, yes, but it will take years, maybe decades, to fully understand it all. She smiled. The good news is I think they were lying about how damaged it is. Many systems appear dormant, not destroyed. It's like they put it into hibernation. Dr. Paul Winters, the xenobiologist assigned to study the alien materials, joined them. The hull is made of a self-healing composite. I've been running tests, and when provided with the right energy signature, the material actively repairs itself. Why would they abandon a ship that can heal itself? Rodriguez wondered. Dr. Grant's expression grew serious. I think they genuinely believe it's obsolete. To them, this is like an old cargo ship from the 1950s, not worth the trouble. But to us, it's like giving a smartphone to someone from the Middle Ages. Rodriguez finished. Exactly. And I think they're counting on us being too primitive to figure it out. She gestured to the enormous chamber around them. They've made a mistake, Captain. They've given us the keys to the stars. As the research continued, Lisa Martinez approached Rodriguez with troubling intelligence. We've been monitoring Varaxian communications based on the frequencies they used. They're expanding aggressively into nearby systems. Several alien species have been subjugated already. You think Earth is on their list? Rodriguez asked. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. And when they come back, they might regret leaving their worthless ship with us. Rodriguez looked up at the towering alien vessel that now housed over 500 of Earth's brightest minds. Then we better make sure this scrap heap is ready for them. A year after the Varaxians left, Dr. Grant activated the first reclaimed system, internal lighting throughout the massive ship. As the vessel awoke from its slumber, the assembled scientists broke into spontaneous applause. In the control room, Dr. Grant turned to Captain Rodriguez. This is just the beginning, she said. I think the Varaxians are going to be very surprised when they see what humans can do with a little junk. 5 years passed since the Varaxians abandoned their ship on Earth. The once empty desert around the massive vessel now bustled with activity. Research buildings, housing complexes, and security installations stretched for miles around what was now called the Phoenix Project. Dr. Allison Grant rubbed her tired eyes as she studied the holographic display floating above her workstation. The alien technology had been maddeningly difficult to understand at first. Progress came in small steps, each breakthrough leading to a dozen new questions. You should get some sleep, said Dr. Eric Daniels as he entered her lab. The computer scientist had joined the team 3 years ago and had been instrumental in deciphering the alien operating system. I'm close to something, she replied without looking up. The propulsion system is finally making sense. Eric placed a cup of coffee beside her. Well, this might help. I've managed to access another section of their database. It contains technical specifications for the gravitic drive. Allison's eyes widened. This was exactly what she needed. Eric, you're a genius. Just persistent, he said with a smile. The Varaxians designed their systems to be understood only by Varaxians. They never considered that humans might think differently, find workarounds. Across the complex in the military wing, Captain Frank Rodriguez, now promoted to colonel, led a meeting with Commander Susan Hill, a naval officer assigned to develop tactical applications for the alien technology. The quantum computer system is now operational, said Kyle Bennett, a young engineering prodigy who had discovered how to reactivate the ship's self-repair systems. We can start integrating it with our weapons platforms. Good, Rodriguez nodded. And the hull modifications? Commander Hill pulled up schematics on the screen. We figured out how to reconfigure sections using their nanomaterial techniques. It's slow going, but we're making progress. The mood in the room changed as Director Jack Russell entered. As head of the International Starship Research Initiative, he carried the weight of the entire project on his shoulders. We just received some troubling news, he announced. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected Varaxian ships at the edge of our solar system. They appear to be observation vessels. A tense silence filled the room. They're checking up on us, Rodriguez said finally. They want to see what we've done with their garbage. Or lack of doing, Hill added. They probably expect us to be staring at it, still trying to open the front door. Director Russell's expression remained grave. There's more. Lisa Martinez and her intelligence team have intercepted and decoded some Varaxian communications. It seems they've conquered 3 more systems since they visited Earth. Their empire is expanding rapidly. We need to accelerate the Phoenix Project, Rodriguez said, standing up. If the Varaxians decide Earth looks like a nice addition to their empire, we need to be ready. The United Nations Security Council is voting tomorrow on converting this from a research initiative to a defense project, Russell revealed. I think it's time to show them what we've accomplished so far. The next day, world leaders gathered virtually to witness the first major demonstration of reclaimed alien technology. Dr. Grant and her team had prepared for weeks. What you're about to see represents 5 years of human ingenuity applied to technology centuries beyond our own, she explained to the assembled officials. We've not only understood the Varaxian systems, we've improved them. At her signal, Kyle Bennett activated the power core. The enormous alien vessel hummed to life, lights flickering across its hull. On the large display screens, internal systems came online one by one. The Varaxians abandoned this ship because they considered it obsolete and damaged beyond reasonable repair, Dr. Grant continued. What they failed to understand is that humans excel at taking broken things and making them work again. Secretary William Nelson, the UN representative overseeing the project, leaned forward. Are you saying the ship can fly? Not yet, Grant admitted. But we've restored primary power, life support, and internal transport systems. Most importantly, we've activated the self-repair capabilities. The ship is literally healing itself. And the military applications? Asked a general from China. Colonel Rodriguez stepped forward. We've begun integrating Earth weapon systems with alien technology. The results are promising. Their energy distribution network can amplify our laser weapons by a factor of 10. Their shield technology, once fully understood, will revolutionize defensive capabilities. The vote that followed was unanimous. The Phoenix Project would become Earth's primary defense initiative. 3 months later, Ambassador Kazek returned to Earth. His shuttle landed at the complex built around the abandoned starship. He was greeted by Director Russell, Dr. Grant, and Colonel Rodriguez. Your species continues to surprise us, Zek said, his tone condescending despite his words. We expected you to be studying the hull metals, perhaps learning some basic principles of space travel. Instead, you appear to have made the vessel partially functional. We're quick learners, Dr. Grant replied evenly. Zek's horizontal pupils narrowed. The Varaxian Empire has been reconsidering the hasty decision to leave such technology here, even in its outdated form. We would like to negotiate its return. Return? Rodriguez asked, feigning surprise. It was abandoned as worthless. Scrap, Ambassador. You called it a gift to our primitive civilization. Circumstances have changed, Kazek said stiffly. We are prepared to offer trade agreements and limited technological exchange for its return. Director Russell smiled diplomatically. Perhaps we could discuss this after you've seen what we've accomplished. You might be impressed by how we've treated your gift. Kazek agreed, though his body language suggested impatience. As they toured the facility, the Varaxians' attitude shifted from dismissive to concerned. Humans in lab coats and uniforms moved purposefully through sections of the ship that had been dark and dormant when the aliens left. Earth computers interfaced with alien systems. Parts of the hull had been reconfigured. When they reached the engine room, Dr. Grant could no longer hide her pride. "We've made some improvements to the gravitic drive. Our calculations suggest it will be 30% more efficient than the original design." Kazek stared at her. "Impossible. Your species lacks the foundational understanding of quantum mechanics necessary for such modifications." "As it turns out," Dr. Grant replied, "humans approach problems differently than Varaxians. Sometimes that leads to innovative solutions." Later that evening, as Kazek prepared to return to his ship, his demeanor had become cold and formal. "The Varaxian Empire cannot allow potentially dangerous technology to remain in the hands of an unpredictable species. I will report what I've seen to the Imperial Command." "Is that a threat, Ambassador?" Rodriguez asked quietly. "Merely an observation, Colonel," Kazek replied. "You have taken our discarded trash and begun turning it into something unintended. The Empire will need to assess whether this poses a threat to galactic stability." As the alien shuttle lifted off, Director Russell turned to his colleagues. "I think we just moved from theoretical to practical defense needs. We need to accelerate the weapons integration," Rodriguez said, "and the propulsion systems." Dr. Grant nodded, her mind already racing with calculations. "The Varaxians left this ship because they thought we were too primitive to use it. They're about to learn that underestimating humans is a serious mistake." After Ambassador Kazek's threatening departure, the Phoenix Project entered a new phase. What had been a scientific endeavor became a military one. The abandoned cargo ship was now being transformed into Earth's first interstellar warship. Dr. Allison Grant stood on a viewing platform overlooking the main hangar. Below her, hundreds of engineers and technicians swarmed around the massive alien vessel. Sections of the hull had been removed, revealing the complex internal systems. Earth-made weapons were being carefully integrated with Varaxian technology. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Admiral Mary Foster as she joined Dr. Grant at the railing. The naval officer had been appointed commander of the Phoenix 3 months ago. She was tough, smart, and had a keen understanding of both tactics and technology. "It's coming together faster than I expected," Grant replied. "Dr. Nathan Price's team made a breakthrough with the adaptive armor. The nanomaterials are responding to our control systems now." Admiral Foster nodded, her eyes scanning the activity below. "And the weapons integration?" "Carlos Mendez has managed to connect our laser systems to their power grid. The tests show energy output 10 times greater than anything we've built before." The two women watched as a section of the hull rippled and reformed, changing from a smooth surface to one bristling with weapon ports. Dr. Price's breakthrough had unlocked the ship's ability to reconfigure itself on command. "The Varaxians never utilized the ship's full potential," Grant explained. "They saw it as an outdated cargo hauler, but we're discovering capabilities they never explored." Foster smiled grimly. "Good, because our intelligence suggests they're not happy about our progress." In another part of the complex, Colonel Rodriguez met with Agent Victoria Clark, the security specialist protecting the project from potential sabotage. "We've detected unusual communication patterns in orbit," Clark reported. "The Varaxians have cloaked observers watching us." Rodriguez wasn't surprised. "How much can they see?" "Surface activity only. The hangar is shielded, and we keep the most sensitive work inside the ship itself." "Double the security patrols anyway," Rodriguez ordered. "I don't want any surprises." 6 months of frantic work followed. The ship, now officially named Phoenix, was transformed from the inside out. Human computers were fully integrated with alien systems. Weapon emplacement studded the once smooth hull. The propulsion system had been not only repaired but enhanced using Dr. Grant's revolutionary power amplification design. Then came the day they had all been waiting for. The Phoenix would attempt its first liftoff. Dr. Grant joined Admiral Foster on the bridge. The control room had been redesigned to accommodate human operators, with familiar displays and controls connected to alien systems. "All departments report ready, Admiral," said Lieutenant Ryan Cooper from the weapons station. "Engineering confirms power systems at optimal levels," added Dr. Eric Daniels, who had insisted on being present for the historic moment. Admiral Foster took her seat in the command chair. "Begin launch sequence." Outside, the massive ship hummed with energy. The ground crew retreated to a safe distance as the anti-gravity generators activated. Slowly, ponderously, the enormous vessel lifted from the ground where it had rested for over 6 years. "We have liftoff," Foster announced calmly, though her eyes shone with pride. "Navigation. Take us to orbital position Alpha." Flight Officer Diana Patel, a former Air Force pilot trained to operate the alien navigation systems, guided the ship upward. The Phoenix rose through the atmosphere, its newly developed shields preventing any heat damage from re-entry. As they reached low Earth orbit, cheers erupted throughout the ship and in control centers around the world. Humanity's first Starship was spaceworthy. The celebration was short-lived. 3 days later, 5 Varaxian vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Ambassador Zek transmitted a message directly to the United Nations. "People of Earth." His voice echoed through speakers as his image appeared on screens worldwide. "The Varaxian Empire has determined that your militarization of our discarded technology represents a threat to galactic security. You will surrender the vessel immediately or face the consequences." The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. World leaders debated the response, but in the end, the decision was clear. Earth would not surrender its only defense against an obviously hostile alien empire. President Laura Watson delivered humanity's response. "The vessel was abandoned on our world as worthless scrap. We have claimed it under salvage rights and transformed it through human ingenuity. It now stands as a symbol of our sovereignty. We will not surrender it." Kazek's response was immediate. "Then you leave us no choice. The Varaxian Empire will reclaim its property by force." The Varaxian ships accelerated toward Earth. They would arrive in 3 days. Aboard the Phoenix, Admiral Foster addressed her crew. "We always knew this day might come. The Phoenix was built for this purpose, to defend Earth against those who would threaten our freedom. We are outnumbered, and using technology we're still learning to control. But we have advantages they don't expect." Dr. Grant stood beside Colonel Rodriguez in the ship's tactical center. "The Varaxians think in straight lines," she said. "Their battle tactics follow rigid patterns established over centuries. They won't expect creativity. Or desperation," Rodriguez added. "Nothing fights harder than a cornered animal." The next 48 hours were a blur of preparations. Every system on the Phoenix was checked and rechecked. Weapons were calibrated. Shield harmonics were adjusted. The newly developed stealth system, based on a combination of Varaxian technology and Earth-based radar-absorbing materials, was tested and refined. Commander Peter Simmons, the tactical officer who had been studying Varaxian battle patterns, presented his findings to Admiral Foster. "They always follow the same approach. Their lead ship will demand surrender. Then their smaller vessels will attempt to flank us while the larger ships attack head-on. So we'll do what they don't expect," Foster replied. "We'll attack first." As the Varaxian fleet approached Earth orbit, the Phoenix powered up its systems. Unlike the bright energy signatures of Varaxian vessels, the Phoenix ran silent, its human-modified systems barely registering on sensors. Admiral Foster addressed her crew one final time before battle. "The Varaxians abandoned this ship because they thought it worthless. They left it with us because they believed humans too primitive to understand it. Today we prove them wrong on both counts." She turned to Flight Officer Patel. "Set an intercept course. Maximum speed." The Phoenix accelerated, away from Earth, heading directly toward the approaching Varaxian fleet. Aboard the alien vessels, sensors suddenly registered the approaching ship, far sooner than they had anticipated and moving faster than their outdated cargo haulers should have been capable of. Admiral Foster's voice was steady as she gave the order that would begin humanity's first interstellar war. "Weapons free. Let's show them what humans can do with a little junk." The Phoenix accelerated toward the approaching Varaxian fleet. On the bridge, Admiral Foster studied the tactical display. 5 alien warships against Earth's single vessel. The odds were not good. "Time to intercept?" Foster asked. 12 minutes, Admiral. Flight Officer Diana Patel replied, her hands steady on the controls. Dr. Allison Grant stood at the science station, monitoring the ship's power systems. The modifications she had made to the Varaxian engines were performing beyond expectations, but they were still untested in combat. "Lieutenant Cooper, status of weapon systems?" Foster asked. "All weapon banks charged and ready, Admiral," the young weapons officer responded. "Targeting systems locked on the lead Varaxian vessel." Commander Peter Simmons spoke up from Tactical. "Admiral, the Varaxians are deploying in standard attack formation, 3 smaller vessels moving to flank. Positions, 2 larger ships maintaining central approach." Foster nodded. This matched their intelligence. The Varaxians relied on predictable tactics that had served them well against less advanced civilizations. "They're transmitting, Admiral," reported the communications officer. The main screen flickered to show Ambassador Kazek's face. He appeared, surprised to see humans operating the bridge of what had once been a Varaxian ship. "This is your final warning," Kazek announced. "Power down your stolen vessel and prepare to be boarded. The penalty for theft of Varaxian technology is death, but your leaders may be shown mercy if you surrender immediately." Admiral Foster stood tall. "This is Admiral Mary Foster of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We claim this ship by right of salvage. After you abandoned it on our world, we will defend ourselves if attacked." Kazek's horizontal pupils narrowed. "You primitives have no understanding of the forces you are challenging. The Varaxian Empire has conquered 12 star systems. Your single, outdated vessel cannot hope to resist." The transmission cut off abruptly. "They're powering weapons," Simmons reported. Foster turned to her crew. "This is it, people. Remember your training. They think we're predictable savages. Let's prove them wrong." She nodded to Flight Officer Patel. "Evasive pattern Delta. Let's not make ourselves an easy target." The Phoenix suddenly dropped, then veered sharply to port. The maneuver was not one found in Varaxian tactical databases. "The Varaxians are firing," Cooper announced. Energy beams lanced out from the alien vessels, but they hit empty space where the Phoenix had been moments before. "Return fire," Foster ordered calmly. "Focus on their lead ship's propulsion systems." The Phoenix's weapons opened up. Dr. Grant's power amplification system channeled energy through the modified Varaxian weapons. The result was devastating. The lead alien ship shuddered as the enhanced energy beams pierced its shields. "Direct hit," Cooper shouted. "Their aft shields are down 60%. On the enemy bridge, Kazek stared in disbelief at his tactical display. "Impossible. That vessel cannot generate that level of firepower." His weapons officer looked equally confused. "They've modified the systems beyond Varaxian specifications." "Our shield harmonics were not calibrated for these energy signatures." "Adjust and return fire," Kazek ordered. "Deploy scatter drones to track their movements." Back on the Phoenix, Simmons detected the new threat. "Admiral, they're launching small automated weapons platforms. They'll try to box us in." "I expected that," Foster replied. "Dr. Grant, now would be a good time for your surprise." Grant nodded and activated a sequence on her console. The Phoenix's hull shimmered as specialized emitters came online. These devices, based on Dr. Nathan Price's research into adaptive materials, began broadcasting false sensor readings. Suddenly, the Varaxian tracking system showed 3 Phoenix ships instead of 1. "Sensor ghosts," Grant explained. "They'll have trouble determining which target is real." The confusion gave the Phoenix precious seconds to maneuver. Foster used this advantage to target the flanking Varaxian vessels. "Target the smaller ships. One by one," she ordered. "Their coordination is their strength. Let's break that up." Lieutenant Cooper adjusted the targeting systems. The Phoenix's weapons found their mark again and again. One of the smaller Varaxian ships lost propulsion and began drifting, but the aliens adapted quickly. The remaining ships regrouped, concentrating their fire on the Phoenix. The human vessel shuddered as energy beams impacted its shields. "Shields at 72%, reported Carlos Mendez from engineering. The modifications are holding, but we can't take sustained fire like this. Foster studied the tactical display. The Varaxians were adjusting their formation, trying to surround the Phoenix. They're using standard containment tactics, Simmons observed. They'll try to trap us between their ships and coordinate their fire. Then let's not be where they expect us, Foster replied. Diana, head directly for their formation. Full speed. Flight Officer Patel looked surprised but quickly complied. The Phoenix surged forward, heading straight toward the gap between two Varaxian warships. They're not expecting this, Foster explained. Varaxian doctrine says a weaker force should retreat, not attack. As the Phoenix barreled toward the alien formation, the Varaxian ships scrambled to adjust. Their coordinated attack fell apart as they tried to reposition. Fire all weapons as we pass between their ships, Foster ordered. Target their sensor arrays and weapon emplacements. The Phoenix unleashed a barrage of energy as it threaded the needle between the two larger Varaxian vessels. At such close range, the alien ships couldn't bring all their weapons to bear without risking friendly fire. The Phoenix rocked from return fire, but the gambit worked. As they emerged from the Varaxian formation, sensors showed significant damage to both enemy vessels. Their coordination is breaking down, Simmons reported with satisfaction. They're having trouble tracking us at close range. Foster allowed herself a small smile. Human unpredictability for the win. The battle continued for another 20 minutes. The Phoenix darted between alien vessels, striking hard and then moving on before the Varaxians could concentrate their fire. The human crew worked seamlessly, adapting to each situation with creativity and determination. Dr. Grant constantly adjusted power distribution, channeling energy where it was needed most. The Varaxians designed their systems to operate at preset parameters, she explained to Foster during a brief lull. They never considered pushing the equipment beyond those limits. Eventually, one of the Varaxian ships went dark, its systems overloaded by the Phoenix's enhanced weapons. Another began retreating, its propulsion damaged and shields failing. Ambassador Kazek, his bridge now filled with smoke and emergency lighting, stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How is this possible? One outdated cargo ship against 5 military vessels? His second-in-command looked grim. The humans have modified the technology in ways our engineers never considered. They are not following any known combat doctrine. Kazek made a difficult decision. Signal retreat. We need to report this to Imperial Command. As the remaining Varaxian ships began to withdraw, Admiral Foster faced a choice. They're retreating, Admiral, Simmons reported. Should we pursue? Foster considered this briefly. Negative. Our mission was defensive. Let them go, but disable the most damaged vessel first. We could use the intelligence. The Phoenix fired one final volley, precisely targeting the engines of the struggling Varaxian ship. The alien vessel drifted to a halt, unable to follow its comrades into faster-than-light travel. Prepare a boarding party, Foster ordered. Let's see what we can learn from our friends. As the rest of the Varaxian fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the crew of the Phoenix allowed themselves to celebrate. Against overwhelming odds, humanity had scored its first victory in interstellar combat. Dr. Grant looked at the retreating energy signatures on her screen. They'll be back, she said quietly, and next time they won't underestimate us. Admiral Foster nodded. Then we better make good use of the time we have. This was just the beginning. 3 months passed since the Phoenix's victory over the Varaxian ships. Earth used this time wisely. The captured Varaxian vessel provided valuable intelligence about the alien empire. Most importantly, they discovered that the Varaxians were fighting wars on multiple fronts, stretched thin across several star systems. In shipyards around the world, new vessels were under construction. Using the knowledge gained from the Phoenix project, humans had begun building a small fleet of hybrid warships. They weren't as large as the Phoenix, but they incorporated the same blend of human innovation and alien technology. Dr. Allison Grant stood in the newly completed Fleet Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Massive screens showed the positions, of Earth's defensive forces and the approaching Varaxian armada. They're sending everything they can spare, she said to Admiral Foster. 17 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Foster studied the display with a grim expression. They're not taking any chances this time. No more underestimating the primitives. President Laura Watson joined them, her face showing the strain of leading Earth through its first interstellar crisis. Will our fleet be ready in time? The Phoenix is fully operational with all upgrades installed, Foster replied. We have 6 new hybrid destroyers ready for combat. 2 more will be operational within 48 hours. 8 ships against 17, Watson said quietly. The odds are better than last time, Foster pointed out with a hint of humor. And we have other advantages, Dr. Grant nodded. The database from the captured ship contained communications protocols for the entire Varaxian fleet. We've developed a system that might disrupt their coordination. And we've made contact with other species who have suffered under Varaxian expansion, added Colonel Rodriguez as he entered the room. 3 of them have agreed to provide support if we can hold out long enough. The president straightened her shoulders. Then we make our stand. The survival of our species depends on it. 2 days later, the Varaxian fleet entered the solar system. Unlike the previous encounter, they made no demands for surrender. Their intentions were clear: total subjugation of Earth. The Phoenix led Earth's small fleet into position. The 7 ships formed a defensive line between the approaching armada and their home planet. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Admiral Foster addressed her crew and, by extension, the crews of all Earth vessels. Today, we face an enemy who believes superior numbers guarantee victory. They see us as primitive creatures who got lucky once. They expect us to fight according to their rules and their expectations. She paused, looking at the determined faces around her. We will do neither. Earth has always survived against overwhelming odds. Today will be no different. As the Varaxian fleet approached, they deployed in a classic pincer formation. Their larger vessels formed the center while smaller, faster, ships moved to surround Earth's defenders. Classic Varaxian tactics, observed Commander Simmons. They're sticking to their doctrine despite what happened last time. Foster nodded. They believe the previous battle was an anomaly. Their military has used the same strategies for centuries because they've always worked. She turned to communications. Signal the fleet to execute scatter protocol. Earth ships suddenly broke formation, each vessel heading in a different direction. This was not retreat. It was the first stage of their battle plan. Instead of facing the Varaxian fleet as a single unit where they could be surrounded and destroyed, Earth ships would force the aliens to divide their attention. They're breaking off pursuit groups, Simmons reported, as the Varaxian fleet split, up to chase the Earth vessels. Just as we hoped, Foster replied. Phase 2. Each Earth ship suddenly changed course again, heading directly toward its pursuers. It was a move no Varaxian commander would make, charging directly into superior firepower. But the human vessels had been modified with one goal in mind: getting close enough to deploy Dr. Grant's disruption system. The Phoenix took the heaviest fire as it drove toward the 3 Varaxian dreadnoughts. Shields flared under the barrage, but the enhanced systems held. Shields at 60%, reported Carlos Mendez from engineering. We can't take much more of this, Admiral. We won't have to, Foster assured him. Dr. Grant, status of the disruption system? Grant was focused, intently on her console. Ready to deploy on your command. We need to get within 10,000 kilometers of their command ship. You heard the doctor, Foster said to Flight Officer Patel. Get us there. The Phoenix accelerated, diving beneath the lead dreadnought while returning fire. The massive alien vessel couldn't maneuver quickly enough to keep the smaller, nimbler Earthship in its weapon arcs. Range to target, 12,000 kilometers and closing, Patel announced. All power to forward shields, Foster ordered. The Phoenix shuddered as it absorbed another barrage of Varaxian weapons fire. Warning signals blared across the bridge. Shields failing, Mendez warned. Range to target, 10,000 kilometers, Patel called out. Now Dr. Grant, Foster ordered. Grant activated the disruption system. A pulse of energy specifically tuned to Varaxian communication frequencies burst from the Phoenix. The effect was immediate. The coordinated fire from the alien vessels became erratic as their combat systems lost synchronization. "It's working," Grant announced. "Their fleet command structure relies on continuous data exchange. We've effectively scrambled their battlefield network." Across the solar system, the other Earth ships deployed similar systems. The Varaxian fleet, accustomed to perfect coordination, fell into disarray. "All ships, commence attack pattern Omega," Foster ordered. Earth's vessels pressed their advantage, focusing fire on key systems of the confused Varaxian ships. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. The Phoenix led the assault on the dreadnoughts, targeting weapon emplacements and propulsion systems. Without their normal coordination, the massive Varaxian vessels struggled to defend themselves against the more agile Earth ships. 2 hours into the battle, the tide had turned. 3 Varaxian vessels had been disabled. Another 4 had sustained heavy damage. The remaining ships began to retreat, their formation broken. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Admiral Foster received an unexpected communication. "Admiral, we're detecting new ships entering the system," announced the sensor officer. 6 vessels of unknown configuration. Foster tensed, fearing Varaxian reinforcements. But Commander Simmons studied his display with growing excitement. "They're not Varaxian," he reported. "They match the signatures of the Tellarite Alliance, one of the species the Varaxians conquered." The communication officer looked up from her station. "We're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel, Admiral. They say they're here to help finish what we started." The Allied ships fell upon the retreating Varaxians, cutting off their escape route. Caught between Earth's fleet and their former victims, the Varaxian commander faced an impossible situation. "We're being hailed by the Varaxian flagship," the communications officer reported. The main screen activated to show not Ambassador Kazek, but a higher-ranking Varaxian official. "This is High Commander Vorex of the Imperial Fleet," the alien announced. "We request terms for cessation of hostilities." Admiral Foster straightened in her chair. "This is Admiral Mary Foster of Earth. We require the immediate withdrawal of all Varaxian forces from our solar system and recognition of Earth's sovereignty." The Varaxian commander's horizontal pupils narrowed, but he had no choice. "Agreed. Pending Imperial approval. We request safe passage for our remaining vessels." As the defeated Varaxian fleet limped away from Earth, cheers erupted throughout the human fleet. Against overwhelming odds, humanity had secured its place among the stars. President Watson addressed the world later that day. "Today marks a new chapter in human history. We have proven that determination and ingenuity can overcome even the most daunting challenges. The ship the Varaxians abandoned as worthless has become the foundation of our future among the stars." Dr. Grant stood with Admiral Foster on the observation deck of the Phoenix, watching Earth rotate peacefully below them. "What do you think they'll do now?" Grant asked. Foster smiled slightly. "They'll adapt. That's what empires do. But they'll never underestimate humans again." "And we'll be ready for them," Grant replied. "The Phoenix was just the beginning.